His lips were still on my neck when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. My husband's name flashed across the screen, and my stomach flipped. I froze. The younger man's hand slid down my thigh, urging me closer, his breath hot against my ear. "Ignore it," he whispered, as if it were that simple. But it wasn't simple. Nothing was simple anymore. Because that call wasn't just my husband wondering where I was. That call was a reminder of the life I had promised to live, the vows I had once taken seriously, the woman I used to be before I decided to be bad for just 1 week. But that week was supposed to be over. Yet here I was, 2 weeks later, in a hotel room again, doing exactly what I had sworn I'd stop doing. Before I tell you how I got trapped in this double life, let me pause to say, please, if you're enjoying my story so far, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it. This is my only way of confessing what I can never admit out loud, and your support keeps me brave enough to tell the truth. Now, let me take you back to where it all began, when the 1 week ended but my hunger didn't. The week after. The morning after my so-called last night, I had stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection with swollen lips and tired eyes. I promised myself it was over. I would slip my ring back on, erase the taste of sin from my skin, and slide quietly back into the life I had left waiting at home. But promises are cheap when temptation is louder. Because the truth was, I couldn't stop thinking about him. The younger man's smile. His hands. The way he made me feel like I wasn't invisible, like I wasn't just someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's background noise in her own home. And then, 3 days later, my phone lit up with his name. "Miss me?" the text read. My heart pounded, and instead of deleting it, instead of blocking him like a sane woman would, my fingers betrayed me. Yes, I typed back. That one word was the start of everything that followed. The return. We met again the next weekend. I told my husband I had errands to run, nothing suspicious, just groceries and a quick stop at the salon. But instead of the salon, I drove straight to him. The moment I saw him, my resolve collapsed. His arms pulled me in before I could even speak, his lips claiming mine like no time had passed. My knees nearly gave out when he pressed me against the wall, kissing me like he owned me. I should have pushed him away. I should have remembered my promises. Instead, I moaned into his mouth, letting the bad girl inside me roar back to life. That afternoon blurred into stolen kisses, tangled sheets, and whispered lies. By the time I drove home, I was both terrified and thrilled. Terrified because I had lied again, thrilled because I knew it wouldn't be the last time. And it wasn't. The pattern. Over the next 2 weeks, I found myself creating lies I never thought I'd tell. Book club. Yoga. Shopping with a friend. Every excuse became a doorway to him. And every time I swore it would be the last, I'd find myself back in his arms, breathing him in like an addiction. But it wasn't just about the sex. It was the way he looked at me, the way he touched me like I was the only woman alive. At home, I felt like wallpaper, seen but ignored. With him, I was fire. I knew it was dangerous. I knew I was playing a game I couldn't win. But the thrill was intoxicating. The call that changed everything. Which brings me back to that hotel room, the one where my husband's call nearly shattered everything. I pulled away from the younger man, fumbling for my phone. My hand shook as I pressed decline, my chest heaving with panic. "You're shaking," he said softly, reaching for me again. "Relax. He doesn't know." And he didn't. That was the dangerous part, my husband had no idea. He trusted me completely. I could tell any story, and he'd believe it. That blind faith gave me freedom, but it also made the guilt gnaw at me harder. Still, even as the guilt burned in my chest, my body leaned back into the younger man's embrace. My lips parted for his kiss again, and once more, I gave in. Because desire is stronger than guilt. At least, it was for me. Why I kept going. Looking back now, I can't even say it was just about him anymore. It was about me. I had spent years being good, being faithful, being predictable. And for the first time in my adult life, I was breaking rules. I was creating a secret life that belonged only to me. There's a strange power in being wanted, in being reckless, in knowing you're walking a line so thin it could snap at any second. And the more I tasted it, the more I craved it. So even though the 1-week challenge had ended, my adventure had only begun. The secret thrill. One afternoon, I was sitting across from my husband at the kitchen table while he scrolled through his phone. I watched him sip his coffee, completely oblivious, and the strangest thought hit me. He had no idea that just 2 nights before, another man had been tracing his hands down my spine, whispering my name in the dark. And that secret, that dangerous little secret, made my heart race under my skin. I wasn't just living one life anymore. I was living 2. And once you taste that kind of thrill, how do you ever go back? Before I end this chapter, let me remind you, if you're still listening, if you're intrigued, shocked, or maybe even relating a little, please hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. This is only the beginning of part 2, and things are about to get messier, riskier, and more dangerous. Because what started as 1 week of rebellion, had now become a secret addiction I couldn't walk away from. The first lie is always the hardest. After that, they roll off your tongue like rehearsed lines in a play. Book club. Yoga. Dinner with a friend. By the time my 2nd week of being good again turned into my 2nd week of being worse than before, I had a list of believable excuses ready at all times. And my husband never questioned them. Why would he? For years, I had been predictable, reliable, boring even. A night away here or there was nothing out of the ordinary. But what he didn't know was that every excuse, every errand, every made-up girl's night, was leading me back into his arms, the younger man who had become my escape. The office flirtation. It wasn't just him, though. I started noticing myself looking at men differently, almost as if once I crossed the line, all the other lines blurred. There was one man at my office, let's call him Rick. He wasn't nearly as young as the one I was seeing, but he had a confidence that drew attention. One afternoon, we ended up working late on a project together. The office was nearly empty, the hum of the copy machine filling the silence between us. "You smell good," he said suddenly, leaning close to hand me a stack of papers. I felt my cheeks heat up. No one had complimented me like that at work before, not in years. "Thanks," I muttered, brushing it off with a smile. But the way his eyes lingered told me he meant more than just good. And for the first time, I didn't shut it down. I let his words hang in the air, feeding the little spark inside me that had grown since I started down this road. I went home that night to my husband, kissed him on the cheek, and slid into bed like nothing happened. But my mind kept drifting, not just to the younger man, but now to Rick too. That's when I realized I was no longer just cheating. I was living in a constant state of wanting more. The hotel ritual. By the 3rd week, meeting the younger guy became routine. Almost like a second marriage, except ours was built on secrecy and lust instead of vows. We had our favorite hotel, a mid-range place on the edge of town, nothing fancy, but quiet enough that we could slip in unnoticed. The front desk clerk never asked questions, and after a while, I think he recognized us. We had our rituals too. He'd always bring wine. I'd always wear the kind of dresses I never dared wear at home. The moment the door clicked shut, we'd shed the masks we wore for the world and lose ourselves in each other. Those nights were addictive. Not just for the sex, but for the way I felt alive in his presence. With him, I wasn't the wife picking up groceries, folding laundry, or keeping track of bills. I was a woman again. Desired. Bold. Reckless. And yet, every time I slipped my ring back on afterward, guilt clawed at me. But the guilt never stopped me from going back. The close call. One night, as I was sneaking back home, something almost went wrong. I had spent hours with the younger guy. Lost in the chaos of him. By the time I got into my car, my hair was messy, and my perfume was thick with his scent. I rolled the windows down, trying to air out the evidence, but my nerves were shot. When I walked through the door, my husband was in the living room, waiting. "Late night?" he asked casually, not looking up from the TV. My heart slammed in my chest. I froze for a second too long before forcing a laugh. "Yeah, the girls wouldn't stop talking." He nodded, focused on the game. "Hungry? I saved you some pizza." That was it. No suspicion, no questions, nothing. But in that moment, I realized just how thin the line I was walking really was. One wrong scent, one wrong word, one wrong glance, and it could all crumble. Instead of stopping me, though, the danger made my pulse race. The risk was part of the high now. The younger man wants more. It wasn't just me changing. The younger guy started changing too. At first, he had been happy with stolen hours, hidden texts, and secret hotel rooms. But after a few weeks, he started pushing. "Why do you always have to leave so fast?" he asked one night, pulling me back onto the bed when I reached for my dress. "You know why," I whispered, kissing him quickly before pulling away again. "I can't risk it." He frowned, his arms folding across his chest. "Sometimes it feels like I'm just your secret. Like I don't exist outside these walls." His words hit me harder than I wanted to admit. Because he was right. He was my secret. That was all he could ever be. But a part of me wondered what would happen if he wanted more than that. What if he wanted me full-time? What if he wanted to replace my husband instead of just distract me from him? That thought scared me more than getting caught. The growing hunger. By the end of the 4th week, my life had split into 2 clean halves. By day, I was the wife, the coworker, the neighbor who smiled politely at PTA meetings. By night, or whenever I could steal a moment, I was the bad girl who had no rules, no limits, no shame. And the more I lived that way, the harder it became to stop. It wasn't just about the younger guy anymore. It was about the thrill. The secrecy. The power of knowing I had something no one else could see. At work, I found myself leaning into Rick's compliments more. Letting him stand a little too close. Laughing a little too much at his jokes. I didn't cross the line with him, not yet, but the fact that I wanted to made me realize how far I had fallen. I wasn't just a woman cheating on her husband anymore. I was a woman addicted to living on the edge. The double life. One evening, I sat on the porch with my husband as the sun went down. He handed me a glass of sweet tea, the sound of crickets filling the air. From the outside, we looked like any other married couple enjoying a quiet evening together. But inside, my mind was racing. I couldn't stop thinking about the texts waiting on my phone. The next time I'd sneak away, the next lie I'd tell. And the strangest part? Sitting there beside him, I almost felt untouchable. Because he trusted me so completely, because he had no idea, it made my secret life feel even more real. Like I had built a second world he couldn't see. And I wasn't ready to give it up. The whisper of trouble. Still, something inside me knew this couldn't last forever. The younger guy wanted more. Rick was starting to pay me more attention at work. My husband was blissfully unaware, for now. I was juggling too much, and the balls were getting heavier with each lie. But instead of pulling back, instead of slowing down, I leaned into it harder. Because once you start living like this, stopping feels like suffocating. And deep down, I knew, this was no longer just a game. It was becoming my life. Before I close this chapter, let me pause again to say, if you're still listening, if this story has you hooked, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. You don't want to miss what happens next, because trust me, things are about to get far more complicated. It started with a text. "We need to talk." My heart pounded as I stared at the message from him, the younger man. It wasn't our usual playful banter, no teasing emojis, no impatient "when can I see you again?" This felt heavier. I typed back quickly, "What's wrong?" His reply came fast. "Not here. Meet me tonight." I should have said no. I should have remembered all the promises I had already broken, all the lies stacked like cards that could collapse at any second. But curiosity and fear won. The meeting. We met at our usual hotel, but the moment I saw his face, I knew this wasn't just another night of stolen kisses and tangled sheets. His jaw was tight, his eyes serious. "What is it?" I asked, shutting the door behind me. He paced the room for a moment before finally blurting out, "I'm tired of being your secret." The words hit me like a slap. I froze. "What do you mean?" He stopped pacing and looked me dead in the eye. "I mean, I want more. I can't just keep waiting around for your lies, your excuses, your scraps of time. I need more of you. I deserve more of you." My stomach twisted. Part of me wanted to scream that he knew what this was from the beginning, that he had agreed to the rules. But another part of me knew he was right. He wasn't just a fling anymore. He was a man with feelings, and I had been selfish enough to pretend otherwise. "I can't give you more," I whispered, my throat tight. His expression hardened. "Then what are we doing?" For the first time since this whole adventure started, I felt the ground beneath me crack. The kiss that betrayed me. Before I could answer, he grabbed me, kissed me fiercely, almost angrily. His mouth was demanding, his hands gripping me like he was afraid to let go. I kissed him back with the same desperation, because the truth was, I didn't want to lose him either. But when we finally pulled apart, breathless, the air between us wasn't the same. It wasn't just passion anymore, it was conflict. And conflict was dangerous. The almost discovery. The danger followed me home that very night. I walked through the door later than usual, my hair still damp from a rushed shower at the hotel. My husband was in the kitchen, sipping a beer. His eyes flicked up to me, and for the first time in weeks, they lingered a little too long. "You look different," he said slowly. My pulse spiked. "Different how?" He shrugged. "I don't know. Just different. Like you're glowing or something." I forced a laugh, rushing to the fridge for a bottle of water. "It's probably just the yoga. All that stretching, you know?" He chuckled and let it go, but my hand shook so badly I nearly dropped the bottle. That was too close. Way too close. And yet, instead of stopping me, the close call only made my pulse race harder. "Rick crosses the line." As if things weren't complicated enough, Rick from the office decided to test my boundaries. One Friday afternoon, the office was nearly empty. He leaned against my desk, his cologne strong, his smile dangerous. "So," he said casually, "do you ever go out after work?" I tilted my head, pretending not to understand. "Like, drinks?" "Yeah. Drinks. Dinner. Whatever." His eyes lingered on mine a second too long. I should have shut it down. I should have reminded him we were just coworkers. But instead, I found myself smiling, biting my lip the way I knew I shouldn't. "Maybe sometime," I said softly. His grin widened. "Good. I'll hold you to that." When he walked away, I felt my cheeks burning. What was I doing? I already had one secret that could ruin my life. Why was I flirting with another? The answer was simple, I couldn't help myself anymore. The younger man's ultimatum. That weekend, I met the younger man again. The tension between us hadn't faded since our last talk. As soon as I walked into the hotel room, he spoke. "I don't want to share you anymore." My chest tightened. "You don't have a choice." His eyes narrowed. "Maybe I do. Maybe I don't want to keep sneaking around. Maybe I want you for real." Panic surged through me. "You knew what this was from the start. You knew I couldn't give you more than this." He stepped closer, his voice low and sharp. "I'm falling for you. And I think you feel it too." The worst part? He was right. I did feel it. Somewhere between the lies and the lust, feelings had tangled themselves into the mess. but I couldn't say that out loud. So instead, I kissed him, trying to drown the conversation in passion. It worked for a while, our bodies understood each other better than our words ever could. But deep down, I knew the issue wasn't going away. The risk grows. Back home, the lies became heavier. My husband started noticing little things, how often I was gone, how tired I seemed, how distracted I was at dinner. "You okay?" he asked one night, concern in his eyes. I forced a smile. "Just stressed with work." He nodded slowly, clearly not convinced, but he didn't push. That was both a blessing and a curse. His trust gave me cover, but it also made me hate myself more. Because the more he trusted me, the more I betrayed him. And still, I couldn't stop. The almost slip. The scariest moment came one morning when I was getting ready for work. I reached into my purse and found a crumpled hotel receipt tucked between my things. My blood ran cold. What if my husband had seen it? What if he had picked up my purse by accident, looking for something? I shredded the paper into tiny pieces and flushed them down the toilet, my hands trembling. That was the moment I realized how careless I was becoming. My secret world was starting to bleed into my real one. And if I didn't get a grip, it was only a matter of time before I got caught. The thrill versus the fear. That night, lying in bed beside my husband, I stared at the ceiling in the dark. My body was tired, my heart racing, my mind a battlefield. I should have ended it. I should have cut ties with the younger man, ignored Rick's flirting, walked away from the lies. But the truth? The truth was I didn't want to. Because the danger wasn't just a risk anymore, it was part of the thrill. And the thrill had become my addiction. Before I close this chapter, let me remind you, if this story has your heart racing like mine was, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You won't want to miss what comes next, because trust me, the more dangerous the game, the closer I came to losing everything. I told myself I would end it. After that night when he demanded more of me, when I felt the walls closing in, I swore I'd cut things off. I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, whispering, "This ends today. No more lies." But that same afternoon, I found myself driving to the hotel again. My heart said one thing, my body said another, and my body always won. The pull I couldn't resist. The moment I stepped into the room, he was there waiting, restless, intense, his eyes dark with that hunger only I seemed to understand. "You came," he said, his voice low. I wanted to snap back, "Of course I came. I can't stay away from you." But instead, I just nodded. I told myself I wouldn't, I whispered. He smirked, pulling me against him. "You always say that." And he was right. I always said that. Minutes later, I was lost in him again, all thoughts of ending it drowned out by the fire he lit inside me. I wasn't just cheating anymore, I was addicted. The conversation I didn't want. But afterwards, lying in bed with him, sweat cooling on my skin, he brought it up again. "I don't want to keep being your secret." My chest tightened. "We've already had this conversation." "Yeah, and I'm done waiting. Either you leave him, or we're done." My stomach dropped. "You don't mean that." He sat up, staring at me with an intensity that scared me. "I do. I'm not some toy you can pick up and put down when you're bored. I love you. And I'm tired of watching you go home to him every night." I froze. He had said it. The word I was terrified of. Love. And the worst part? My lips almost said it back. The slip at home. That night at dinner, my husband was telling me about his day, something about a new project at work, when I almost said the younger man's name. It slipped onto my tongue like muscle memory, and I had to bite down hard to stop it. My fork clattered against my plate, and I covered it with a laugh. "Sorry, I'm distracted." "Long day," I said quickly. He gave me a look but didn't press. But inside, I was shaken. One slip of the tongue, and everything could come crashing down. Rick pushes further. As if I didn't have enough chaos, Rick from the office decided to test me again. He cornered me near the copy machine one afternoon, his arm brushing against mine. "Still waiting on those drinks," he murmured. I smiled faintly, pretending to be busy. "You don't give up, do you?" "Nope," he grinned. "Something tells me you like the chase." I should have walked away. But I didn't. I let him linger, let him flirt, because part of me craved the attention. He leaned in closer, his voice a whisper. "Careful, sweetheart. One of these days, I'm not going to let you walk away so easy." A shiver ran down my spine, not just from desire, but from fear. Rick was dangerous in a different way. And deep down, I knew I was playing with too much fire. The younger man's surprise. The breaking point came one weekend. I told my husband I was meeting a friend for coffee, but instead, I drove to the hotel. When I walked into the room, the younger man wasn't alone. He had brought candles, wine, music playing softly. The whole setup looked like something out of a movie. "What's all this?" I asked, my heart pounding. He took my hands, looking at me with eyes full of something I wasn't ready to face. "I want us to stop sneaking. I want this to be real." I pulled my hands back. "We can't." "You know we can't." "Yes, we can," he insisted. "You just have to choose me." His words echoed in my head, loud and terrifying. Choose him. End my marriage. Burn my life to the ground. And yet, part of me wanted to say yes. The close call. 2 days later, my husband asked me something that nearly made me choke. "Who were you texting last night?" My blood turned to ice. I had been texting the younger man while sitting beside him on the couch, careless, reckless. I forced a casual smile. "Just Megan from work. She needed help with a project." He nodded slowly but studied me in a way that made my skin crawl. I realized then how thin the line was getting. One wrong move, one wrong glance, and my whole secret world would explode. The mirror moment. Late one night, after everyone was asleep, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror. My reflection stared back, tired eyes, lips swollen from kisses that weren't my husband's, skin glowing with guilt and desire. Who was I becoming? I didn't recognize the woman looking back at me. But the scariest part wasn't that I didn't know her. The scariest part was that I liked her. The ultimatum. The next time I saw him, he didn't waste words. "It's me or him," he said flatly. I froze. "Don't do this to me." "I'm already doing it," he shot back. "I can't keep living like this. If you want me, you have to prove it. Leave him. Be with me for real." My heart hammered so loudly I thought it might burst. Because for the first time, I realized this wasn't just about sneaking around anymore. This was about making a choice that could shatter my world. And I wasn't ready to make it. Not yet. Before I end this chapter, remember, if this story has you hooked like I was trapped in it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The final chapter is where everything spirals, and trust me, you'll want to see just how far I was willing to go before it all blew up. His voice was sharp, final, and it cut through the hotel room like a knife. "It's me or him. Tonight. No more stalling." I stared at him, my chest heaving. His eyes burned into mine, so sure of himself, so sure I'd break the life I had built for him. And the terrifying part? For a split second, I wanted to. The pressure mounts. I paced the room, my heels clicking against the carpet. "You don't understand," I said, clutching my phone like a lifeline. "It's not that simple." "It is that simple," he snapped. "You either love me enough to stay, or you don't." I wanted to scream at him that it wasn't about love, that it was about children, bills, a house, a marriage that wasn't dead but wasn't alive either. It was about responsibilities that didn't just vanish because he made my body tremble. But my throat locked. Instead, I whispered, "Give me time." He shook his head. "You've had time. Weeks. I can't keep being your secret, your dirty thrill. I need more. His words carved into me, deeper than I wanted to admit. The call I almost made. That night, I drove home in silence, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles whitened. My phone sat in the cup holder, glowing with his name. One press of a button, and I could have ended it. I could have told him, I choose my husband. I choose my family. This is done. But my fingers trembled and never dialed. Instead, I slipped into the house, kissed my husband's cheek like nothing had happened, and sat down at the dinner table while guilt roared through me. And then, like clockwork, the younger man texted. If you don't choose me soon, I'll make the choice for you. My stomach dropped. Did he mean it as a threat? Or desperation? I didn't know. The craving I couldn't kill. I tried staying away. I swear I did. I ignored his texts for 3 days. 3 whole days. But by the 4th, I was dizzy with need. My skin ached, my chest felt hollow, and I couldn't focus on anything but him. So I caved. I texted back. And within hours, I was in his arms again, melting, surrendering. Addiction doesn't care about promises. Addiction laughs at reason. And I was hopelessly addicted. The dangerous slip. One afternoon, while tangled with him in the sheets, I heard a faint vibration. I glanced over and froze. My husband's name lit up on my phone screen. My breath caught. What if I'd answered? I whispered after the call ended. He smirked. Then he'd finally know the truth. I shoved his chest, panic surging. Don't joke like that. But his smile faded, and his next words chilled me. I'm not joking. I want you to tell him. If you won't, maybe I will. My world tilted. Don't you dare, I hissed. Then prove you're mine. The dinner party. The breaking point came at a neighborhood dinner party. Couples laughing, glasses clinking, my husband at my side, everything looked picture perfect. Until I glanced across the room and saw him. I nearly dropped my wine glass. He wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't part of our circle. But there he was, talking to one of the neighbors like he belonged. Our eyes locked, and the ground beneath me split in two. What the hell was he doing here? The confrontation. I cornered him outside, away from the others. What are you doing? You can't be here. He leaned in close, his voice low but fierce. I told you, I'm done hiding. You either tell him, or I will. My heart slammed against my ribs. You wouldn't. Watch me, he whispered. For a moment, the world blurred. My husband's laugh floated through the open window, friends chattering around the table inside, and here I was, on the edge of destruction. The lie I sold. Somehow, I got through the night. I smiled, laughed, and played the role of perfect wife while my insides burned. Later, in bed, my husband wrapped an arm around me and murmured, "You okay? You seemed distracted tonight." I forced a smile in the dark. Just tired. But in my mind, I saw the younger man's face, his threat lingering like smoke. And I knew the walls were closing in. The breakdown. A week later, I cracked. We were in the hotel again, and I broke down, sobbing into his chest. I can't leave him. I can't destroy my life. Please don't make me. His jaw tightened, his arms stiff around me. Then I was just your fantasy. That's all I'll ever be. Tears burned my eyes. You're more than that. You know you are. Then prove it. But I couldn't. The ending that wasn't. The next day, I told him it was over. I meant it this time. He stared at me for a long, painful silence before finally nodding. Fine. But don't come running back when you realize you can't breathe without me. And then he walked away. I should have felt relief. But instead, I felt hollow, like someone had ripped a piece of me out and left me bleeding. The secret I carry. It's been weeks since then. My husband never found out. My neighbors never suspected. On the surface, my life looks untouched. But inside? I'm ruined. Because the truth is, I still dream of him. I still crave him. And sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I scroll through old messages, my finger hovering over the call button. I tell myself I won't. I tell myself it's done. But I know the truth. One day, I'll break again. And when I do, everything I've hidden might finally come crashing down. Before I close this chapter, let me say, thank you for listening to my confession. If you've been hooked to my story, if you felt the tension, the fire, the guilt with me, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Because my story isn't really over. Not yet.